know them by heart. But
That's awesome. Thank you so much, Mark.
So, I don't know what it says reading.
Did you want to chant
I
it?
don't care. It's, whatever you want to do.
I don't know. It's not. Usually we chant it.
I'll chant it.
Awesome. Thanks.
She gets 3 weeks because they need a week to get ready and a week for the holiday and a week to get over. I'm glad for her. I mean, it's kind of weird. Is it Zoom? No. This is a nice movie. It's nicer than the other one. Morning. Am I right? I didn't know that happened. No, it is. Yeah. I had it wasn't even on the right knee. There's good days and bad days. But it was in the rain. It's a little bit not terrible. Not bad. Maybe a short story.
Well, it's hurting today. I mean, sure.
Nice to be here with you.
I'm thinking that we're gonna, I wonder if we're gonna hear sirens. What do we do if we hear sirens?
Go to the basement school.
Services.
Yeah. We had it once when I was here.
Oh, yeah, I've heard it a couple of times, yeah.
Yeah, we
Just
just,
been here, once with religious school,
okay.
once with Sunday school, and once it was just us, just the staff.
Yeah. We just go to the basement. School. It'll
Be interesting, I presume.
I don't think it got warm enough today here.
I don't know, I'm not sure. It's a watch for,
Yeah.
I don't know, that doesn't mean.
Right. You have faith, right? Don't you?
What?
You have faith.
Faith that.
You gotta pray harder.
May God bless and keep the tornado far away from
Amen.
us, right? Yeah.
Like the czar.
Yeah. But I wonder if it's moral. You know, what are the ethics of praying that a tornado doesn't hit you? Because if it doesn't hit you, it goes somewhere, right? So
I'm sure there's a tractate for that.
there is. There is. But if you're heading back to your house and you hear sirens, you're not permitted to pray that it not be your house. Really? Because if you pray that it's going to be your house, you're actually praying that it's someone else's. And not just, you just don't say it to anyone. Wow. Yeah, isn't that interesting? That is very, the ethics in Mishnah Brachot are truly amazing. Well, Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
Shabbat Shalom.
It is so good to be together. Those of us who are here, I know that we are under a tornado watch, but maybe there's a blessing for the tornado. As I was saying to Mark just moments ago, may God bless and keep the tornado far from us. And everything should go well this Shabbat. And Mark, it is always wonderful to share the Bima with you. Thank you for lifting our voices in prayer. And Paul, as always, thank you for accompanying us and bringing such wonderful music to our community and to our congregation. So it's good to be, even if there's just a few of us, it's sort of nice to have this relaxing Shabbat together. And those of you at home, we know that you are here with us spiritually as well. So we're going to begin our service on page 10 in your Siddur. That's page 10. We're going to begin with singing Ma Yafeh Hayom. How beautiful is this day, even if, there is beauty that comes from within. And certainly when we gather together and when we see each other and we see the beauty of the Sabbath day, no matter how yucky it might be outside, we should be certainly willing to sing Ma Yafeh Hayom. How beautiful is this day, this Shabbat.
Ma Yafeh Hayom, Shabbat Shalom. Ma Yafeh Hayom, Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat, Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat, Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat, Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom.
It's now a joy to call upon Judy and Jim Silverman, who are going to ascend to the Bima, where they have the honor of kindling our Shabbat candles. They bring a tremendous amount of light to our community and to our congregation. It is certainly in a world in which we look outside and the challenges of the week and the challenges that we might experience that we need light, that spiritual light that is always with us. And so if you are following along, we are going to turn back to the kindling of our Shabbat candles, which can be found on page 2. That's page 2. Do you want to do the reading at the beginning? We're going to do first. Let's do that. Why don't we do the reading here? We read together, or responsively rather, on page 3.
As these Shabbat candles give light to all who behold them, so may we, by our lives, give light to all who behold us.
As their brightness reminds us of the generations of Israel who have kindled light, so may we in our own day be among those who kindle light.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lahadlik ner shel Shabbat.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat, lehadlik ner shel Shabbat. Amen.
Well, Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
Shabbat Shalom.
Let there be Shabbat lights and let there be Shabbat goodness. Shabbat Shalom, Jim. And so we are now going to turn in our Siddur to page 20. And on page 20, you'll find the prayer Lechad Odi, a prayer that actually charges us with its poetic beauty to ascend, just as the mystics of Sfat used to ascend upon the snake path up to the Ha'ari synagogue, chanting these verses on the way. So may we be uplifted by the beautiful music and by the beautiful words of Lechad Odi, as is our custom, as becoming our custom. When we come to the final verse, we invite you to stand up and bow to greet the Sabbath bride as we bow towards the entrance in which we arrived.
Lechad Odi likrat kala panei Shabbat nikabla Lechad Odi likrat kala panei Shabbat nikabla Lechad Odi likrat kala panei Shabbat nikabela. Lechad Odi likrat kala panei Shabbat nikabela. Lechad Odi likrat kala panei Shabbat nikabla shamor v'zachor b'dibur echad hishmi'anu el hamyuchad Adonai echad Ushemo echad l'shem u'tiferet v'hitilam. Lechad Odi likrat kala panei Shabbat nikabla hitoreri ki va'orech kumiori uri shir debari kevod Adonai alayich nigla. Lechad Odi likrat kala panei Shabbat nikabla Bo'i v'shalom ateret bala gam besimcha uvtzochola toch emunei am segula bo'i chala Lechad Odi
Likrat kala, Panei Shabbat, Nikabla, Lecha Dodi, Likrat kala, Panei Shabbat, Nikabla.
We continue on page 22, a song for Shabbat. It's good to praise Adonai, to sing hymns to your name, O Most High, to proclaim your steadfast love at daybreak, your faithfulness each night. With a 10-string harp, with voice and lyre together, you have gladdened me by your deeds. Adonai, I shout for joy at your handiwork. How great are your works, Adonai, how very subtle your designs. A brute cannot know, a fool cannot understand this. Let's read together. The righteous bloom like a date palm, they thrive like a cedar in Lebanon. Planted in the house of Adonai, they flourish in the courts of our God. In old age, they still produce fruit. They are full of sap and freshness, attesting that Adonai is upright, my rock in whom there is no wrong. We continue on page 26 with the Chatzi Kaddish.
Yitgadal v'yitgadash shemei Rabbah.
Amen.
B'yamad yivrach yirutei v'yamlich malchutei. B'chayechon uv'yomechon uv'chayedecho beit Yisrael. Bagala, uvizman kariv, v'yemeru, amen. Yehei shemei Rabba mevarach, le'alam ulal me'almaya, yitbarach. Yitbarach vayishtabach vayitpa'ar vayitromam vayitnaseh vayitadar vayitale vayitalal shemei dekudashah richu leila min kol birchata vashirata tushbechata vanechemata damiran bialma vayimeru. Amen.
We now rise as we turn to the call to worship, which can be found on page 28. We continue reading in the Hebrew on page 30. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bidvaro ma'ariv aravim, v'chochma poteach sharim, uvitfuna meshana itim, umachalif et hazmanim, sader et hakochavim b'mishmerotehem berakia kirtzono. Borei yom v'layla, golel or mipnei choshech, v'choshech mipnei or. Umavir yom umevi laila, umavdil ben yom uvein laila, Adonai tzevaot shemo. El chai v'kayam tamid imloch aleinu le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai, hama'ariv aravim. We continue reading in the English on page 33. As you taught Torah to those to whose names I bear, teach me Torah too. Its mystery beckons, yet I struggle with its truth. You meant Torah for me. Did you mean the struggle for me too? Don't let me struggle alone. Help me to understand, to be wise, to listen, to know. Lead me into the mystery. Baruch atah Adonai, Ohev Amo Yisrael. We continue now with the watchword of our faith, the Shema, on page 34.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Vaed.
You may be seated. We continue with Ve'ahavta on page 36.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשיטתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשכבך ובקומך וקשרתם לאות על ידיך והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אדוני אלוהיכם אמת.
We read responsively now on page 39. In a world torn by violence and pain, a world far from wholeness and peace, give us the courage to say, Adonai, there is one God in heaven and earth.
The high heavens declare your glory. May earth reveal your justice and love.
From bondage in Egypt we were delivered. At Sinai we bound ourselves to your way.
Inspired by prophets and instructed by sages, time and again we overcame oppressive forces.
Though our failings are many and our faults are great, it has been our glory to bear witness to our God, keeping alive in dark ages your vision of a world redeemed. Let us continue to work for the day when the nations will be one and at peace. Then shall we rejoice as Israel did, singing on the shores of the sea.
מי כמוך בעלים אדוני, מי כמוך נהדר בקודש, נורא תהילות אוסף אלה, נורא תהילות אוסף אלה, מלכותך ראו בניך, בוקע ים לפני משה, זה לי ענו ואמרו, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד.
ונאמר כי יפרע אדוני את יעקב וגואלו מיד חזק ממנו. ברוך אתה אדוני גאל ישראל. We continue at the bottom of page 43, reading together this prayer of Hashkivenu, prayer in which we are imploring God to provide a shelter of peace over us and over all the world. Give us a place to rest, Adonai our God. Bring us into shelter in the soft, long evening shadows of your truth. For with you are true protection and safety, and in your presence are acceptance and gentle love. Watch over us as we go forth. Prepare for us as we return. Spread over us your shelter of peace, over all we love, over our Jerusalem and yours. Baruch atah Adonai, haporei sukat shalom aleinu, ve'al kol amo Yisrael, ve'al Yerushalayim. We continue now with the Vishamru, which can be found on page 44.
ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ביני ובין בני ישראל, או תהי לעולם לעולם. כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ, וביום השביעי שבת ויהי נפש. Adonai sefakai tivtach ufiyati tehilatecha. Adonai, open my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu, Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu, Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibur v'Hanorah, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, V'konei ha'akol, V'zocher chasdei avot va'imahot, Umevi gula livnei b'neihem, L'ma'an shemo be'ahava, Melech ozer u'moshia u'magen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham ve'ezrat Sarah, Atah gibur le'olam Adonai, Mechaye hakol atarav lahoshia, Mechalkel chayim v'chesed, Mechaye hakol berachamim rabim, Somech noflim v'rofeh holim, Umatir asurim, Umkayem umatir, Umkayem Afar, Micha mocha bal gvurot, umido melach, melech menit umachaye, umatzviach Yeshua, v'ne'eman atal hachayot hakol, Baruch atah Adonai, mechaye hakol. Atah kadosh v'shimcha kadosh, u'kadoshim b'chol yom yahalucha selha. Baruch atah Adonai, ha'el hakadosh.
You may be seated. We continue reading responsively at the top of page 55. May these hours of rest and renewal open our hearts to joy and our minds to truth.
May all who struggle find rest on this day.
May all who suffer find solace.
May all who hurt find healing on this day.
May all who despair find purpose.
May all who hunger find fulfillment on this day.
And may this day fulfill its promise. Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh haShabbat. The top of page 57. Ritzei Adonai Eloheinu be'amacha Yisrael, u'tefilatam be'ava tekabel, u'tehi leratzon tamid avodat Yisrael amecha. Ever-present one, may we, your people Israel, be worthy in our deeds and our prayer. Wherever we live, wherever we seek you, in this land, in Zion restored, in all lands, you are our God, whom alone we serve in reverence. Baruch atah Adonai, shotecha levadcha b'yirah na'avod. We turn to the Hoda'ah prayer, a prayer of thanksgiving, a prayer that reminds us to be grateful for the gifts that come our way. In an evening such as this, we may be grateful for the gift that comes in knowing that spring is on its way. We know this because not only is Passover coming up, and for our Christian neighbors, Easter's coming up, but for all of us, opening day, home opener is coming up on Monday, and so we can feel the spring is on its way. We might feel grateful for the gift that we can gather together as community, and we might feel grateful for the gift of being able to raise our voices high, not only in prayer, but also to espouse the values that we hold dear. And so if you are grateful this evening, we invite you to read with us on page 59 these words. God of goodness, we give thanks for the gift of life, wonder beyond words, for the awareness of soul, our light within, for the world around us so filled with beauty, for the richness of the earth which day by day sustains us. For all these and more we offer thanks. Baruch atah Adonai, hatov shimcha u'cha na'eh lehodot. We continue now with a prayer for peace on page 60.
Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Ki atahu melech adon lechol hashalom. Ki atahu melech adon lechol hashalom. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Vetov be'enecha levarech et Amcha Yisrael. Bechol eit uvechol shah bishlomecha. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Tasim Leolam. Tasim Leolam.
Let us read these words of peace together at the top of page 61. Grant us peace, your most precious gift, O eternal source of peace, and give us the will to proclaim its message to all the peoples of the earth. Bless our country as a safeguard of peace, its advocate among the nations. May contentment reign within our borders, health and happiness within our homes. Strengthen the bonds of friendship and fellowship among all the inhabitants of every land. Plant virtue in every soul. May the love of your name hallow every home and every heart. Praised are you, Eternal One, who blesses our people with peace. Baruch atah Adonai, hamivarech et amo Yisrael, b'shalom. We are now going to turn from these words of peace to words of healing. And I know that's a little bit out of order from our sheet and what we're doing. Often people will do the Misha Berach after doing the silent prayer. But we're going to do the Misha Berach before the silent prayer. The reason is it's good to feel that sense of echoing, in a sense, that we've just said a prayer for peace in the world, a prayer for shalom. And it's meaningful then to take a moment to have our prayers be directed to those who are in need of shalom, of wholeness. And this world is certainly in need of wholeness. When we look at the fragile nature and the brokenness that we see around us, then no wonder there is this need for us to think of healing. And for those of us who are having that feeling of that they are in need of refuat hanefesh, which means a healing of spirit, or refuat haguf, or a spirit healing of body, we are thinking of you and praying for you. And so we think of Shendel Bat Frida Malka, Julie Borikoff, Margot Roz, Carol Dubin, Sharon Rotman, Steve Toplinsky, Esther Cohen, Lisa Furstad, Hachazan Sarah Rechelbe, Yocheved Alexander, Steve Plotkin, Avram Ben Naftali, Marilyn Harmon, Barry Bursak, Mary Frankowitz, Sophia Rubenstein, Ilana Himmelfarb, Avraham Bat Frida, Marla Chikowski, Michael Sychek, David Rotter, Natalie Cohen, Yona Neri Ben Avraham Vasara, Keith Mandel, Jamie Kryman, Isla Batnatan Vishoshana, Mark Cook, Luke Roberts, Cooper Roberts, Jason Roberts, and Keely Roberts, Mark Berlin, Dr. Susie Mendelson, Audrey Rubin, Josh Boley, Michaela Hellenberg, Julie Austin, Jay Stearns, Chris Gould, Howard Messerman, Michal Stroud, Lisa Fiel, Susan Garrison, Yehuda ben Avraham Vasara, Shayna Leah bat Yehudit, Warren Beal, Ron Slavin, Peter Rotter, Stuart Peckerman, Wendy Cohen, Suzanne Swain, Friedland Kruglak-Veal, Scott Keller, Eileen Shippen, Roger Cook, Michael Bernstein-Fine, Lona Ross, Neil Pinsky, Michael Keller, Baruch Laser Ben Esther, and Layla Rosen. If there are names that should be pronounced differently than I did, I invite you to hold those names in your heart as we turn to these words of tradition, Baruch Atah Adonai, Rofei HaCholim, blessed are you, the source of healing.
Mi sheberach avotenu mekor habracha laimotenu. May the source of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Mi sheberach imotenu mekor habracha liavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen.
Those beautiful words of healing still echoing in our hearts and minds, we take this time for silent reflection.
Yehu l'ratzon imrefi, vehegyon libi lifanecha, Adonai tzuri, vegoali, Amen. O say shalom, shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'imru amen. Hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Amen. Amen. O say shalom, shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'imru amen. Ve'al kol Yisrael, amen.
Well, Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Thank you, Mark. So during Hanukkah this year, the Milwaukee Brewers sent out a Hanukkah greeting to the Jewish community over Facebook. I don't know whether you saw it, which in itself was something that I really didn't notice that much, but Lauren told me to take a look at the comments below. And among the 368 comments were a number that were pointing out that the Brewers had gone woke. Some of the comments, one by a teacher actually, in another community no less, wrote with a great number of exclamation marks. "It's Christmas!" exclamation mark, exclamation mark, exclamation mark. "Stop being politically correct!" exclamation mark, exclamation mark. The Brewers' post was sent out during Hanukkah, more specifically on December 18th. Now, this moment made me ponder the importance of being recognized and represented. When looking at the blowback from a seemingly innocuous holiday greeting from the Brewers, it became clear to me that being seen is tremendously important. Being seen can reduce stereotypes and misconceptions. When there is representation in the media, in politics, in the schools, then we can empower those who are marginalized to feel a sense of belonging. Being seen and allowing for others to be seen creates a community that is more diverse, and which in turn can foster more creativity and innovation in our society, can even save lives. Which is why in this week's Torah portion, Tzav, there are some interesting moments that I think can be meaningful for us today. Judaism is a religion that spends a great deal of time categorizing. We provide distinctions. The beginning of Shabbat is marked by the kindling of candles. The end of Shabbat is marked by the kindling of the Havdalah candle. And the Havdalah service, which actually means draw distinctions. And this week's portion in particular has within it the core content of what the priest should do in offering sacrificial rites. It's a highly specific sacrificial process, and it serves a purpose. The purpose is to make us holy. But even that word carries with it a categorization. The word, "you shall be kadosh," or "you shall be holy," explained by the great commentator Rashi, is as follows. He says, this means you shall be separate or distinct. We owe a great deal to our instinct for separateness. In many ways, it has allowed us to survive a period of time where being different was seen as a threat to the greater society. As Jews, we cleave to each other in our distinctiveness for safety and security, but this belief that holiness only means distinctiveness can prove tremendously detrimental to the health of our society and to a future in which the sacred is an important part of our lives. Being separate should not mean drawing away from our neighbors and friends. Being holy must not only mean having a status in a particular category, for we know that holiness can exist not only in classification, but also in transition. Take, for instance, the marriage ceremony. Among the moments of the wedding is kiddushin, which means sanctifying. It reflects a moment where a loving couple transitions from separateness to togetherness. To say that holiness only exists in one state or the other state fails to recognize the beauty that is taking place as the wedding couple's status is in flux. The moment of blessing comes as these loving companions choose to change their status before family and friends. Recognizing the beauty of the in-between, the shades of gray, the beauty of journey, also helps us appreciate the beauty of being in place. In Tzav, the priests are instructed to take various offerings and transform them into something holy and acceptable to God. And while we are human beings and not offerings, sometimes among our people there is a need to transform into something new, something acceptable for their own continuity, necessary to live their own truth, which is necessary for a positive experience of life and therefore a positive experience of God in their world. Which is why it is so important and meaningful to recognize that today is Transgender Day of Visibility. And we as a community must recognize the importance of this day. I want to recognize where we are as a community on this issue and also recognize that we are also, as a community, on a journey to become more sensitive to the needs of many members of our Jewish community and beyond who are transgender. We've taken steps that I'm proud of. We have a non-gendered bathroom, and I believe we are welcoming as a community. We respect the use of desired pronouns as best we can, although I can speak for myself and tell you I'm prone to error when it comes to referring to someone in plural form. But what's important is that I try, and I want you to try too. And for a very important reason. We're told to welcome the stranger in our tradition, but our trans members are not strangers. They are members of our family. So this is a situation known in rabbinic tradition as kal v'homer, which means all the more so. If we are to be welcoming to the stranger, then all the more so we should be welcoming to members of our own family. We see what a society is like when it is not welcoming each and every day. Right now, we live in a world where rights, equality, and autonomy have eroded under our watch. Despite how hard it is to believe that might be, it calls us and challenges us to pursue a better way of life, to fight back so that every child might feel as though they have an equal part in our collective future. And we must maintain a communal existence that can be held up as a model for how one approaches the uniqueness of every member. Congregation Shalom must always consider itself a light unto the community, just as our people must consider ourselves a light unto the nations. So what does that mean for us? First, it means evaluating some of the language that we use in recording simchas. Maybe it means reevaluating and creating new rituals that speak to the needs of an ever-changing world, a world that demands that we think about gender in more fluid terms. But more important and more essential is that we guarantee that we will fight for the rights of our members in our greater society. That if their rights are threatened in this country, and more particularly this state, that we lift our voices to be protective of those members of our family that are most in need of our voices. And in case you are under the impression that this isn't necessary, in this country alone, in the first 3 months of 2023, state governments have introduced more than 400 bills that target the LGBTQ community. The attacks are real, and so are the impacts of living in a society that marginalizes, discriminates, and even vilifies a segment of our population. This is an issue of life and death. I heard an interesting statistic. Currently, there are as many trans people in the United States as there are redheads. Now that statistic is both eye-opening as it is tragic. First, it's far more than I had thought. It's definitely eye-opening. But second, imagine if there was a deliberate strategy to erode the rights of redheads. They're such a minority that it would be hard to stop the tyranny of a majority who would set upon those redheads were it not for friends and family and neighbors who would stand by their side. So we must stand by the side of the transgendered community and let them know first and foremost that they will not stand alone. You know, it occurs to me that this is the Shabbat HaGadol, right before Pesach. And it's a holiday in which we imagine ourselves in the shoes of our ancestors, leaving Egypt, the narrowness of Mitzrayim, to find our way to a promised land, to be in the wilderness, this expansive place. The word Mitzrayim for Egypt actually means narrow place. It's a narrow place. Because when we think of the river that is the Nile River and what is fertile around it, it's such a narrow strip. So that's why our ancestors referred to it as Mitzrayim. But it isn't just the physical attributes of the land that they were talking about. They were talking about our experience there, that it was narrow. Our choices were narrowed because we lived as slaves. And that march to the promised land, it's notable that when we look in the Torah and we read it according to a cycle, we never step foot into that promised land. We do later on in our biblical story, but we renew the story each and every year before our ancestors enter. And so we're permanently on that journey. We're permanently moving from narrowness to expansiveness. And so it is our responsibility and our job to make sure that everyone marches with us. And in that task, we need to make sure that all of those who are with us on our journey are free. So as we turn to Leviticus and see categorizations that are listed, the nature of transformative offerings and societal roles, all with an eye to holiness and wholeness, let us too be thinking of how our society and our community can be one of wholeness and holiness. It takes all of us to be welcoming, to be affirming, and to be a light. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. It's joy now as we turn to Aleinu, which can be found on page 18, to call upon Jeff and Linda and Harmony to step forward as they have the honor of opening up our Ark doors. It's nice to see you, Harmony. Always wonderful having you here. Your name reflects exactly what we seek, right? And so let's all rise now as we turn to the Aleinu, which can be found on page 22. Well, whoa. 282. Thank you. Looking at the wrong sheet.
Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol, latet gedula liotzer bereshit, shelo asanu kugoye haratzot, velo samanu k'mishpachot ha'adama, shelo sam kelkenu kahem, vegor aleinu kechol hamonam, v'anachnu koreim, ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד.
You may be seated. We turn now to page 294 as we remember dear ones who have passed into life eternal. Particularly in our hearts and minds, we are thinking during the period of Shiva of Richard Arbiter, Mark Mittenthal, and Ronald Pinsky. And so too do we think of all those victims, those who are the victims in the Nashville shooting that took place this week. We think of those young, precious lives. How can we not mourn? We also think of those for whom we are commemorating the period of Shloshim, the 30-day mourning period. We think of Philip Eskotsky, Audrey Gerson, Ren Golan, Mimi Habish, Linda Leshin, Michael Medved, Annalise Sossman, and Jay Wales. In addition to those names too, so too do we think of those who passed into life eternal in seasons gone by, and whose presence we feel this Shabbat. We think of Saul Abelson, Mildred Ausman, Kent Benzinger, Ann Eglander Berkman, Steve Bernstein, Sharon Besser, Herbert Bistritz, Rosalind Blumenthal, Thekla Khan, Fred Cantor, Esther Cohen, Henry D. Eder, Samuel Fuel, Florence Frank, Ruth Galst, Sigmund Goldberg, Abraham J. Golden, Natalie Goldstein, J. Stephen Goodman, Aaron Gratis, Stephen L. Harris, Milton Holzman, Kenneth Jamron, Clifford Keller, Kenneth Liebman, Jacob Lieberman, Louis Liebman, Michael Malitz, Max Mayerson, Jenny Mitchell, Max Owens, Ruby Paler, Stephen Pinsky, Herbert A. Resnick, David Rose, Fanny Rosenberg, Rose Sadowski, Molly Leah Schneider, Brundell Shuminsky, Ruth Shire, Faye Silberman. If there are names that should be pronounced differently than I did, or names that should be added to this list, please do call those names out loud as I look in your direction. In addition to the names of our loved ones, so too do we think of all those who died due to war and or terrorism. We think of all those who died in defense of this nation and allied nations' ideals. We think of all those who died due to this terrible virus that has stricken our nation and our globe, as well as the virus of racism and xenophobia. We think of all those who have died because of the prejudices of others. And we think of all those who perished during the Holocaust. Our griefs and sympathies are mingled as we turn to words that are sanctified by memory, words glorified by hope. The Kaddish Yatom can be found on page 294. We rise together as a community as we recite these sacred words together. Yit gadal v'yit kadash shmei rabbah, b'alma divrach yutei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayecho nuvyomecho nuvchaye dechol beit Yisrael, ba'agala uvizman kari v'yimru amen. Yehi shmei rabbah mevorach le'olam ulomei amaya. Yit barach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh. V'yitadar v'yitalev v'yitalal shmei kudusha brichu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata. Tushbechata v'nechemata. Da'amiran b'alma v'yimru amen. Yehi shlama rabba min shemaya. V'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'yimru amen. Oseh shalom b'imromav. Hu yaseh shalom. Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. V'yimru amen. May the source of peace and peace to all who mourn and comfort to all who are bereaved. And let us say, Amen. You may be seated. It's a joy now to call upon someone who's doing announcements. So there are two past presidents here. But no announcements. Okay. So here are our announcements. Enjoy Passover. Enjoy being together as families. Come together. Enjoy. Ask questions. Find answers. Ask more questions. Drink 4 cups at least. Be together. It is so important for us to enjoy these moments. As always, daily minyan is at 5:45, 5:45. Shabbat morning services are at 10. Torah study is at 9 a.m. There are wonderful things happening here at Congregation Shalom. We've got on Friday a children's Seder that's taking place that we hope that Brian Avner is leading, our Director of Lifelong Education. Thursday night is our second Seder. We have 180-something people that are coming to enjoy and join in that festive meal. We just have so many things that are happening. Festival services are at 10 a.m. on Friday morning. That's 10 a.m. for Pesach festival services. And then Yizkor is the following week at 10 a.m. I believe it would be on Thursday, I think.
Yeah, Thursday.
All right, check the calendar. My math is not so good. So we've got so many wonderful things that are happening in our community. Please feel that you can check our calendar and join in on anything that you would like to incline your heart towards. Thank you again to Mark for leading us so beautifully in our service tonight. Thank you to Paul Caston, as always, for accompanying us. And so we are going to now turn to our Kiddush. And Kiddush can be found all the way back on page 5. We invite you to rise. And Mark, would you lead us in the Kiddush? Because our cups most certainly are overflowing with blessings.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam Borei peri hagafen. Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam Asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu v'shabbat kodsho be'ahava uvratzon hinchilanu zikaron lama'aseh v'reishit ki hu yom techila lamikra'e kodesh Zecher litziat Mitzrayim Kivanu vecharta Viotanu kidashta Mikol hamim Vishabat kodshecha באהבה וברצון הנחלתנו. ברוך אתה אדוני מקדש השבת. Amen.
L'chaim. We are going to turn now to our closing hymn for the Shabbat. Mark, what's our closing hymn for Shabbat?
Is Shabbat Shalom.
Oh, I think we know the words.
You know the
Let's
words.
join together.
Yes, Rabbi. Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, umevorach. Shabbat Shalom umevorach. Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Stay safe on the drive home.
Anyway, please give a big